Hello everyone, this is Aaron with The Final Touch here in Manhattan, Kansas. So, The Final Touch is an auto detail company, but in today's video, I'm going to end up explaining my story and what led up to me starting the detail business and what it represents to me. It is fairly lengthy, but bear with me. I'm sure you'll kind of enjoy it and be able to understand who I am a bit more. So the story actually starts back in, I think about 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, when I was in the Navy. And at the time I had an 2002 Eclipse GT, and so when I went to go choose the car, I was very particular about the color of it. I wanted a dark colored car because a darker colored car naturally looks a little bit more aggressive, and go figure, most males want an aggressive looking sports car, especially when they're young. But I knew about the problems of owning a black car. And since how I was going to be parking out in the middle of a parking lot all the time, just open air, no protection from anything ever, and there's seagulls flying around like crazy because naval base up against the ocean. I didn't want to deal with the problems of owning a black car because I wanted it to stay looking good. So I went with what I like to, the color has several different names depending on the manufacturer. Charcoal gray, titanium gray, gunmetal gray. Yeah, it's just a metallic dark gray. And I took care of the car, got a lot of compliments on it. But at the time, to me, I'm just washing the car and vacuuming it out occasionally. But I fell in love with that color because of, yeah, still had the naturally more aggressive look because the darker color, but it wasn't the problem of black. And at the time, that color wasn't that popular. Silver was a lot more popular, and red, black, and I think even a blue was even a little bit more popular, but of just cars in general. That color, the charcoal gray, titanium gray, just wasn't that popular with really any manufacturer yet. But I fell in love with that color, and while I was in the Navy, I ended up gaining a friend that during a conversation with someone else, and we ended up realizing that him and I both were into vehicles, both into cars. And yeah, before that, we had never spoke to each other before. We just worked together. And but during that conversation with a different person, that's when him and I realized that we're both into vehicles. And so we started talking a bit more and hanging out more. And whenever we were in home port in Norfolk, Virginia, we would hang out together all the time. He grew to love the color of my car for the same reasons that I liked it. And so later on, when he was looking for a new vehicle, several years later, after I had actually already gotten out, I wanted to do the full 20, but I was forced to get out due to medical reasons. I just wasn't allowed to re-enlist. Tried to join a different branch, didn't happen. They wouldn't accept me because of those same medical reasons. But so my friend, his name's David, when he was looking for a new car in 2014, he's a big Ford guy. I myself, I was raised in a very Chevy dominant family. Chevy everything, so Ford was always the butt end of a joke when it came to automotive related jokes. And Mustangs were definitely that most of the time when it came to sports cars. And like I actually used to refer to a Mustang as a butt stain. Just yeah. Anyways, uh, but my friend, he was big into Fords, and I did respect how in 2011 Ford actually came out with the Coyote engine, which is a lot more of a respectable engine. It has good amount of power at that time in the world. 400 horse was a fairly decent amount of power, especially for a daily driver. That's a sports car that most anyone can afford for the most part, and it can be used as a daily driver. That's a pretty substantial amount of power, especially for stock. Um, and so it was respectable. I respected it for that factor. But so my friend, he went to look for a car, and he originally was looking for like a Subaru BRZ or Toyota FRS, which is same car, or no, Scion FRS, Subaru BRZ, and Toyota 86. They're all the exact same car. He was looking at those, but then he went to a Ford dealership and looked at the Mustang. The Mustang wasn't really that much more. It was only about, I think, $5,000 to $8,000 more than the BRZ that he was looking at, and had substantially more power. Uh, and so he ended up buying a Mustang, Mustang GT, and it was in that same color, or I think Ford calls it, um, I think they call it charcoal gray, but besides the point. Uh, but he bought it in that color so that way, for the same reasons, it was going to be parked outside in a parking lot, not under any cover of any kind, because he was in an apartment. And uh, so but after he bought it, every year over Christmas, he would come and spend a week with me. I got out in 2011. He bought the car brand new in 2014. Every year that he had it, he came and visited me. And the whole time he was there with me over Christmas, he would hand me the key and say, "You're driving everywhere." And so during all that, each year, I fell in love with that car more and more. Not really Mustangs in general, but that car. Um, and so each year, I tried to go to the dealership to buy one of my own. For one reason or another, I couldn't. It was either my credit or didn't have enough income, which my credit did get screwed up while I was in the Navy, but that's its own story for another time. And um, but uh, yeah, each year I fell in love with the car even more. I think there was even a time where over one Thanksgiving, I ended up flying out to where he was stationed. He was in Maine at the time. No, Maryland. He was stationed in Maryland at the time, and I flew out the week before Thanksgiving, spent a week with him, and then uh, we drove from there back to Texas because he lived in East Texas, or he lived in Wichita Falls, Texas. And so I actually ended up driving his car 90% of the way. He basically just sat in the passenger seat and slept a lot. When we were going through the mountain range, we did go to Tail of the Dragon, which is a very, very well known auto enthusiast place to visit. It has 318 turns within 11 miles, which is crazy. And but that's what makes it such a high tourist attraction for auto enthusiasts. Plus, the view is amazing at the same time. The views that you see through the valley and stuff is just awesome. So drove through there and continued to drive through the mountain pass, through the Blue Ridge Mountains. And like just as time went on driving, I just fell in love with that car more and more, and never was able to go and just buy one of my own to where he could have one and I could have one. But excuse me. Um, then later on, in I think it was uh, 2017, I believe, um, that I was living in East Texas, lived an hour and a half east of Dallas, um, but I would drive to Dallas at least once a week, sometimes 2, 3 times a week for car meets, just to have something to do. And but I ended up totaling a truck in Dallas, and uh, when that happened, um, I was out of a vehicle because I used to have 3 vehicles, whittled my way down to having just the truck, and uh, then totaled the truck. So I was out of a vehicle, and my friend David, he had tried selling the car a few times because he wanted to get into a truck again, and uh, but other people had looked at it, and it had always fell through. At the time, the car was worth about somewhere between 22 to 24,000. It is a Mustang GT, but it was just a base manual. Why he chose a base manual, there is a reason behind that too, which him and I agreed on. Just because the stuff we would plan on doing to the car would far surpass even a premium or a track pack. So we just decided, is like, why not just save money, get the base model, and then with that savings, we can put into doing the mods that are going to surpass that anyway. Um, and now, yeah, 2017, totaled my truck in January, but he had orders to go to Spain, and he hadn't sold the car yet, and he didn't want to take that car with him over there, and he didn't really want it to just sit in storage for 4 or 5 years either. So he ended up offering to sell me the car for payoff only, which was $15,000. So the car's worth 22 to 24,000, and but I took the money I got from my truck being totaled, paid off what the bank wanted me to pay off, and then bought his car for 15,000. So saved a huge amount of money and bought the car. And I actually paid for the car in let's see, I think March. Yeah, I paid for it in March, and then in April is when I flew out to Maryland to pick up the car. I bought the car, paid for the car a month before I actually picked it up. And it's just, as soon as I paid for it, he went and pulled the battery out so that way, because it was just going to sit from then on, because it's not his car anymore. So he pulled the battery out just so it wouldn't drain the battery. And then I spent a week with him. When I was there, while I was there spending the week with him, I rolled it over 34,000 miles. So it still had fairly low miles. And then drove it all the way back to Kansas, and no, to Texas. I was still living in Texas at the time. But then ended up, while I was there, I lived probably about 45 minutes away from the closest self-service car wash. In Texas, summer 90% of the year, so bugs. So from the distance of driving back from the car wash back to the house, you're going to get plastered with bugs again, kind of defeating the purpose. So I figured, it's like, okay, I need to be able to do this at home. And I know how to wash a car, but I also know that about swirls and micromarring, and which I'll explain what that is in a later video. But I know what causes one of the thing, or part of what causes it, part of what can cause it is poor washing techniques. And this car, I really wanted to take absolute care of, the best care that I possibly could, because I also understand what polishing truly is, and that's going to be in another video as well. And so I wanted to reduce the need to ever have to polish the car as much as possible. So therefore I had to have the highest quality washing techniques possible. And so I probably spent about 40 hours watching videos on YouTube just to learn how to properly wash a car with the safest methods possible. And so watching a bunch of different sources, I came up with a method that I found to be the best for my world, in a sense, the world I live in, the best techniques for that. And so, which I'll make a video on how to do that as well. But so I went out, bought the stuff at Home Depot that I needed, or Walmart, or Harbor Freight, everywhere, to get the stuff I needed to be able to wash the car the way I felt I needed to be able to reduce the chance of ever needing to polish the car. And so spent a couple $100, got started just mainly washing my own car. I just wanted to take care of my own. Had no intentions of doing anything for anyone else at that time. But as time went on, I started to realize that I was starting to clean my car like 3 times a week, which is typically, people would see that's kind of excessive, especially for out there doing it on your own. That's a lot of labor. And so it's like, okay, I'm doing this so much that it's probably because I really enjoy doing it. And so it's like, well, I already have this stuff. I'll just kind of offer to do it for other people too. It's like, maybe there's other people that want to keep their car clean, but just don't have the means to do it, don't have the time to do it, or whatever. And so I made my Facebook page, and I thought about it a lot as to what I was going to call my business or my side hustle at the time. Came up with the name The Final Touch, and I didn't want detailing to be part of that name, just because that way, if the detailed portion of it just never really went anywhere, and there was something else I wanted to do, I could technically still keep that name and just change what it is I'm doing. And so then I ended up, at that time, I had actually never heard of detailing before. I was just washing my car and cleaning it. When it came to the inside, vacuum it, wipe it down. That's it. I was cleaning the car. Eventually, not quite a year later, I ended up moving back up to Wichita, Kansas, and spent a few years back up there. While I was there, because I always wanted to know more, always wanted to know how to do a better job than I did on the last vehicle. And so as a result of that, I eventually stumbled upon this thing called detailing. And so it's like, okay, what's this? And I started to dive down that rabbit hole, and started to learn more different practices and techniques to be able to do a better job. Maybe different products that will be able to allow me to use or perform a better result. Maybe that it's the same result, but in a faster time. All these different factors. And it's been a never-ending rabbit hole ever since then, of wanting to learn how to do better than the day before. As time went on, things progressed, and it has slowly progressed into what it is today, where today I am certified in ceramic coatings with SB3 coatings. I have many different auto detailing suppliers and manufacturers on Facebook that I have on my friends list that I can reach out to at any moment in time, and just other detailers around the world, so that way, if I ever have an issue of any kind, maybe I run into a problem that I hadn't dealt with before and I'm just kind of stumped, I have this big, massive contact list that I can reach out to and be like, hey, this is what's going on and this is what I've tried. So how would you resolve dealing with whatever this is, what's going on? I would ask my network of people that, and I would get a response rather quickly, and to be able to help out whatever that problem was and find a solution to it. A good, proper solution, not a good enough solution, but a good, proper solution. Whether that be detailing related or dealing with something on the business side of things, lots of things. It's very important to have a good network in the industry you work in. Your network is your net worth. I am a firm believer of that. And, but yeah, so that's my story. That's a lot of who I am. I'm a Navy veteran, was in the Navy for 4 years. And so I'm a firm believer of supporting current and prior military. And I also am a supporter of first responders, whether that be ambulance, which is EMTs, firefighters, police, even nurses and stuff as well. I will actually give a discount to each of those. All I ask is that there's some form of proof that you are whatever it is. Like military, they have their ID card that's physical proof, or even if they literally show up in uniform. With police and fire department and EMTs, I'm pretty sure they have some form of ID of some kind that says that they are whoever, which most police, they have their badge or whatever, but I think normally there's an actual ID card of some kind. And nurses as well, because they all typically have a badge that has their name and all that stuff on it and says what hospital or whatever they work at. And so all of those different people, military and first responders, I actually do give a 10% discount to for whatever service. Any service that I offer, it's a 10% off. I just ask that you present that card each different time, because I'm not going to remember. I won't remember. I deal with so many people, I won't remember who is military, who's not. And it's like I always forget to even ask about the discount at different places. Like I know Home Depot does a discount. I always forget about it. And it's 10%. I don't really worry about it. I'm not pinching pennies, but anyways, that's my story. And so if you enjoyed the video, please like, follow, subscribe, whatever, depending on whatever platform this is on. And yeah, like the video, comment, share, and definitely keep an eye out for more, because there's going to be several. Have a good one. Bye.